Carts in Battersea by Joan Aiken, Chapter 10. Simon came to by slow degrees. Once, long ago, he had lain ill of a fever at Gluber's poor farm, and had been left, sweating and shivering and delirious, in the granary, where he would probably have died, if not had not Sophie sometimes stolen away from her duties to bring him food and keep him covered with horse blankets. For some time he thought he was back in the granary. It was dark, but he could smell the same smell of meal and canvas and timber. Only one thing puzzled him, a strange regular creak and groaning which seemed to come from all around him. Finally he concluded it must be the blood pounding in his feverish head. When he tried to move, he found he was quite unable to do so. "I must be very ill," he thought. "I wish Sophie would come." But Sophie did not come, and soon the fever or nightmare, whichever it was, had him completely at its mercy. Although he could not move of his own will, yet he found himself rolled from side to side, as if by a giant invisible hand, and was soon bruised and aching from head to foot. "Could I be in a cart?" he wondered. "But no, if I were, I should hear the wheels and the horses' hoofs. I must be in the granary, and I think I must be going to die." He rolled again, this time over and over. It was as if the floor of the place heaved up, up, up in a long tilting swing, and then down, down, down in the other direction. He rolled and slid, helpless and dizzy. How much of this rolling and battering he endured he did not know. It seemed to go on for an eternity of misery, but at last fever and exhaustion and rough treatment overcame his bruised body, and he fainted again. When next he came to, it was because somebody was shining a light very close to his face. He moved his head dazedly, opened his eyes, and quickly shut them again. He could hear low voices close to him. "Hold the glim nearer this way, Sapskull. How can I see what I'm doing? Sapskull yourself. It's not as easy as all that. Here, let me do it. You hold the light." "Not on your Gemma. She'd probably slice his dabs off." Simon became aware that something was being done to his numb, cramped hands. They had seemed immovably jammed against his sides, and now suddenly he heard a snap and they were free. He realized that they had been tied up all this time, or that he had been tied up all this time, and struggled feebly to hoist himself on his elbows. "Wait a minute. Don't be in such a pelter. We ain't unfastened your trotters yet," somebody whispered sharply in his ear. Obediently he relaxed and lay back, curling and uncurling his fingers, which tingled as blood ran into them. Now he was shoved into a reclining position, and found the neck of the bottle tilted against his mouth. He gulped and choked and spat as liquid ran down his gullet and over his chin. "Enough," he muttered weakly, pushing the bottle away. "No more now, later." The drink, it was prune wine, soon did him good. He opened his eyes and looked about. Close to him, illuminated by the flickering light of a candle, were two familiar faces. After a few seconds he identified them as those of Justin and Dido. "What the deuce?" He raised himself feebly and looked into the gloom beyond him, where he saw ramparts of piled sacks and timber. "Where am I? What are you two doing here?" "Hush, don't make a row. We're in the dark dew." "Here, give him another drink," Justin whispered. Simon accepted another swig. Meanwhile, Dido's words had penetrated his mind, and connected with something he remembered hearing Mr. Twite say. "The dark dew? What do you mean? What is the dark dew?" "It's a ship, of course," Dido whispered impatiently. "We're all at sea. Ain't it a spree? A ship! Uncle Buckle had you shanghaied and taken on board her at Deptford because he was getting to be such a nuisance, always poking and asking questions." "Where are we now?" "I don't know," said Dido, giggling. "The dark dew is bound for Hanover, Bremen, Pa said. That's where they pick up the pickclobbers, you know. But they don't take you there. You get dropped off on an island on the way. Inchmore, it's called. Fubsy sort of name, isn't it?" "But what about you and Justin? What are you doing here?" "That's the cream of it," Dido giggled. "Of course I didn't know you was going to be kidnapped, though I've been suspicioning that Pa would do summat of the sort. I just luckily happened to be looking out of the window at her after we got home from the fair to see if you was coming in, and I saw Pa and Captain Dark put a bag over your head. Coo, you didn't have struggle.
Pa had to clobber you with the butt of his barker, and then they carried you off feet first. I thought I'd follow after. I've never liked it at home above half, anyways. I was just going to hop it when his royal nibs here came along. Justin, you mean? But why? We left you at Battersea.
Yes, well, I wouldn't stand it, said Justin sulkily. You heard what a set down the old grinder was giving me. A body couldn't bear any more of it. He said you was a danger to me, and he'd see it you never had a chance to, I'd never have a chance to meet you again. After the prime time we'd had, too. So after he'd left me with a lot of Latin lines, I thought I'd just show him, and I went down to the stables and made one of the grooms saddle me a horse. Luckily Waters wasn't about. And rode to Southwark. I thought I'd call for you and we'd go to Drury Lane, just to show old Buckle and Thong who was master. But when I got to Rose Alley, there was Dido, just smitching off to go to Deptford, and she told me you'd been scrobbled, so we thought we'd come along for the lark. Dido knew where the ship lay.
Captain Dark always comes to us when he's got a ship in, Dido put in knowledgeably. There's 3 of 'em, Dark Dew, Dark Dimity, and Dark Diamond. He runs mixed cargoes to Holland and brings back arms for Hanover, from Hanover for the calls, you know. But Krupus, we had such a time finding you. We sneaked on board in the dark and hid in the forecastle. Justin nipped into a chest and I squeezed behind the grog barrel. And then, when we was out to sea, we thought we'd look for you, but there was such a storm. All we did was fall over. Justin nearly lobbed his groats, didn't you, Nibs? And I didn't like it about half. And I didn't like it above half. And that was a storm, was it? Said Simon, remembering the hours of rolling misery. I thought I was feverish. How long did it last? Matter of 2 days, and then it took us forever to find you on account of you was stowed away down here in the hold. I'd have been in a bad way but for you, Simon said gratefully. But what's to be done now? Does nobody know you're on board? Not a soul, ain't it famous? We've been having such a game of hide-and-seek. When Captain Dark comes out of his cabin, Justin nips in and nobbles his bottle of Mountain Dew. That's what we've been giving you. And the cook comes out of the galley, I nips in and grabs a black pudding and a husk of tack. Fast as sailors coils up the ropes, we uncoils them again. We've been undoing things and unwinding things so they think the ship's bedeviled or betwaddled. Dido was laughing so much that here she was obliged to stop and stick the candle in a crevice between 2 planks because she was spilling hot wax over Simon's legs. Are you better, Simon? She asked presently. If you are, I've got a bang-up plan. What's that, brat? We'll all play hide-and-seek with the sailors. We'll turn everything in the ship upside down till they're all sit about and dumbflustered. They don't know which way they're going. And then we'll watch our chance and lock 'em in the roundhouse and sail the ship back to Deptford ourselves. Well, Simon admitted this was a pleasing plan. He saw snags. Can you sail a ship, Dido? I know the ropes, she said confidently. How about you? Never been in one in my life before, Simon had to admit, which evidently somewhat dashed Dido's high opinions of him. Justin's acquaintance with ships had been limited to trips up the Thames in his uncle's barge, and it was plain he was not a keen sailor. Throughout the conversation he remained pale and silent, swallowing frequently. I don't really believe we can sail the ship ourselves, Simon said. Well then, Dido refused to be cast down, we'll smidge some barkers. I know where they keeps the guns and balls, and hold 'em up. Make them sail us back. That's a likelier plan. How many are there in the crew? Matter of 14 or 15, and most of 'em tipple-topped or right down half seas over all the time. Captain Dark's the worst of 'em. You never see him but he's got a bottle in his hand and one in his pocket. That's what we'll do then, said Simon. Where do they keep the guns? Up on deck in the roundhouse. We could snibble up now. It's night time and there's only a couple of coves peep go. Unfortunately, Simon discovered when he tried to move that he was still a great deal too weak to stand. His legs gave way and he fell back groaning against the meal sacks. No good, brat, he gasped. I'll have to wait till I get my strength up. Lying tied up all this time without food has left me as limp as a herring. Dido knit her brows. I'll lay you'd do better in the air, she said. This here hole's got a breath in it like a mouldy coffin. Let's put him on a sack and haul him out, Justin." Justin looked doubtful, but when she ordered him not to squat there gaping like a jobberknoll, but to find an empty sack, he nodded palely and obeyed. They laid the sack by Simon, and he dragged himself onto it. The whole project seemed utterly impossible, but somehow, thanks to Dido's indomitable spirit, it succeeded. Simon was drawn away on the sack to the foot of the ladder that led up from the hold. Then, with Dido pulling from above, and Justin pushing from below, he contrived to hoist himself up through the hatchway.
"All right now," said Dido after a period of rest. "Come on, we'd best bustle, or it'll be morning before we're up top." Once more they set to hauling Simon along a dark galley. While they were resting in the shadows at the foot of the next ladder, a man came down it, but he never saw them. He reeled as he walked, and a strong flavor of spirit